Hello everyone. Welcome to the new edition of Tech Talk, and glad you guys have tuned in. If not, and if you are watching on the later upload, still that's okay. So, joining us today is Abhay Dubey. He's founder and CTO at Code Shastra and Hamara.ai, and in the past he has worked at various big companies spanning from Bank of America to Nagaro to other things, and he has also been full-time founder and at a couple of his own startups. So with over 20 years of experience in software architecture, microservices, AI, ML, and enterprise scale systems, Abhay has been uh, working a lot in a lot of different domains. So, thanks a lot for joining us today, Abhay, and it will be great if you can share a few words about yourself for our audience.
Sure. Thank you, Romesh. Hi, everyone. I'm Abhay Dubey. I'm the founder and CTO at Code Shastra. I'll be joining you today to talk about Agentic AI, a field that is you've all heard about, and it's transforming how we think about automation and AI. So, looking forward to this talk and some interesting questions from both the sides.
Thanks a lot, Abhay. So, with that, I guess we can straight away start diving into agentic AI conversation. But
Sure.
before starting all of that, let's just answer one of the most important starting questions of any agentic talk AI. Like, how do you define agents?
Okay, so I define them with an analogy. When we talk about AI helps us in recommendations, in classifications, and filtering of data. When we talk about agents, agents perform a sequence of actions which are generally in pursuit of a goal. So you take a certain number of steps to achieve a certain goal through a sequence. Now, if you talk about it in analogy, then you would say a GPS can give you guidance, but a self-driving car is more like agent, where it pursues a goal autonomously. So I hope that clarifies what the difference between an AI and an agent, AI agent is.
Right. So yeah, that's exactly. I mean, why it starts creating that confusion because of so many different wide varieties of definitions around agents. So when we are talking about it, like autonomous car, self-driving agent, what all different things would you say that it is? It is an agent versus say an AI automation or RPA or a AI workflow precisely, so to speak. How would you really differentiate between a simple AI workflow versus an agentic workflow, so to speak?
Great question. I think that's a confusing question from a lot of audience who are new to this field. So, when we talk about workflow automation, simple workflow automations, it could be RPA, it could be through some other tool. Then we talk about a certain sequence of steps that are performed based on some previous inputs. Now, how AI and AI based workflows have changed is that based on these inputs, certain actions can be determined on the fly in real time. So, when you talk about as simple steps as Excel macros, right? Those are simple steps that you define on a set of data that needs to be executed in a pattern and can be executed n number of times as long as the data is available. Now, when we talk about agentic AI workflow, or in fact AI workflows, we look at the data that is coming in through any medium. AI is able to interpret that data, and take an action based on the data that it's receiving. So when we were talking about a self-driving car, at a very high level, it would interpret that what is the traffic signal that is coming through. Now, if I were to write this simply as a sequence of steps, that red you stop, orange you look, and then green you go, in a situation where there is a traffic jam, it may not be able to correctly interpret, even though the light may be green, but there are situations because of a traffic jam, the car is not able to move forward. However, in an agentic AI scenario, the AI would be able to interpret that even though the signal is green and I'm supposed to go ahead, there is a traffic jam around me or there is a problem in the car and I cannot move forward. So it has taken a decision based on the real time data it's receiving and the next sequence of action it has determined.
Cool, cool. So when we are talking about these agentic AI systems that everybody is these days talking about, like that's going to be the next internet. How should one, start thinking about architecting an AI agent? And let's probably also, because we have audience from various phases of their career. Uh, so if we talk about it from a novice programmer, like a fresh graduate of sorts, vis-a-vis someone who is working at a mid-level to a senior level position, if they are now adventing into agentic AI projects by nature of their job or the decisions that their company have finally taken. So, what are your thoughts around those? I mean, how should one start architecting?
Sure. So I tell this to everyone who comes to me, right? There is no magic bullet. You people generally think when they think of an agentic AI that it's going to do the magic for me. I'll just have an agent and it's going to go about doing stuff that I previously imagined could only be done humanly. But as of today, there is no magic bullet. It is a step by step incremental development that you have to do. And there is a lot of iterations that you need to go through before you make your agent perfect. Yes, in the market, people have done a lot of boilerplate work. They've done these iterations, so there are agents that work off the shelf. But if you were to customize it to your environment, to your liking, there are certain customizations and trainings that need to be done. So, as a novice, first things first, you need to understand how AI works and how agentic AI works. Once you've done that, you select a platform, a suitable platform where you can create these agents that fit your needs and requirements. Once that is done, you'll create an agent and you iterate step by step. You take a look at the problem, have small achievable results. Once you've achieved a result, and the result could be as simple as book a ticket in Jira, right? Everybody is familiar with these systems. Start with step one, write some code or pick some data from an Excel and write it to a database or to some other system. Take simple tasks, execute them step by step. Once you've done that, you look at the bigger picture, that how you are going to achieve your end goal using certain steps. Spend a lot of time determining the workflow that is going to help you achieve your goals, and then iterate, test, and plan with each step. Once you've done that, you will soon have a fully functional agent that is able to solve and run a lot of tasks autonomously 24/7 without much manual intervention. But if you ask me that I can just press a button and create an agent that's just going to do, that's not going to happen. But it is no less than magic once you are able to create your agent and you see the end results.
Right. But if I talk about, say, for example, so this sounds a lot like that you would be going through, you would be approaching it like a workflow in a certain sense, right?
Right.
But as far as we think about agents, they are not really workflow because they kind of you're trying to create an unknown for which you have probably not calculated right now.
Hmm.
So, how would you bring those aspects into architecting an agent? Building it step by step or building it small is great for someone who's starting it. But as, like you said, that the problem starts becoming a lot more trickier as soon as you start adapting it to your use cases. So, how do you kind of bridge that gap?
Sure. So for advanced users, we generally recommend pre-built agents that are there in the market. There are a lot of platforms that offer these for your specific use case. Your use case could range from an HR function to a financial function to something in operations, right? Whatever you're trying to do, there are pre-built functions where they've been trained on previous data. Now that's a good starting point because you don't have to go through all of that all over again. Considering that, you take the agent, look at all the use cases, especially the edge use cases, which are very particular to your business or to your process. Now, once you have that in mind, you look at how the agent is functioning and you run those edge cases, at least some bit of it, you cover 30 to 40% so that agent is able to recognize that what kind of decisions are being made. For example, if you were to do, and I can talk about a little how we do it at Hamari. We implement this at various customer service functions and call centers. Now, even though the basic pattern for most customer service functions is 70 to 80% the same, but if you look at different products, there are nuances that need to be taken care of. So how we look at it, we have our base agent, and for that 20%, we train it on those use cases. Um, for some companies like to invite the user to pay first. I'm just quoting examples here. There are obviously multiple workflows, but they would like to pay first here. So agent looks at that it's being trained on asking the user to pay first or do some activity or troubleshooting first. It starts to learn the process, and you are able to train the agent rather quickly by using these pre-trained agents.
Okay. So some, like you said, some services that you can probably use. So can you give some examples,
Sure.
like
So
platforms?
for
Yeah.
people who are new, I would definitely recommend looking at LangChain as a starting point. LangChain not only lets you build out nodes, as they call them, these are various steps that you can perform based on previous actions in your agents. They also have something called as Langsmith, which is important at later stages to completely. So when we do agentic AI, we always have the observability first approach, which makes sure that agents are doing what they are supposed to do. Remember, this is not 2 plus 2 in the AI world. It may or may not give you the same answer every time. So you have to observe them, you have to train them, and you have to make sure that they stay within the expected outcome that is there. So LangChain also offers Langsmith. These are two wonderful tools that you can get yourself familiar with. LangChain lets you build agents, and Langsmith lets you monitor them. Then there are other platforms from OpenAI, from Microsoft, and other companies which let you build these agents. They are also able to communicate within these agents. There are two major protocols, MCP being the most widely used, and then there is an A2A protocol, which lets agents communicate amongst themselves. Remember, this is an important point because single agent may not be able to do all of the functions. So, for example, I could have a travel book function agent. Now I could say, hey, book a ticket for me from uh, India to US. Now one agent could be looking at tickets through a certain airlines. Another agent could be looking at my taxi travel from my house to the airport, and another agent could be looking at my hotel stay once I land at in America. So there are multiple agents which combine together to complete a single goal or a task. Communication between these agents are important, and you need to be able to have these agents talk to each other and give them the desired output. So looking at these tools, MCP is definitely recommended, most widely adopted as of today. So you can familiarize yourself with it, and most agentic platforms out there support this protocol. Besides this, you would also need infrastructure requirements. Scaling is definitely a requirement if you are building not simply for hobby but for enterprise purposes. You would need to scale horizontally and still have the same output. So you need to be looking at strategies of how to scale. And then monitoring, as I previously mentioned, you have to observe them and you have to monitor them. For monitoring them, you can use OpenTelemetry, Prometheus, Sentry. There are a couple of tools that are available. So keep your toolset handy, familiarize yourself with what is there in the market, and choose the right tool for your use case.
Right. And just to add on to that, I mean, I believe it's worth mentioning to add some LLM proxies as well as LLM observability like LangViews, and
Mm.
LLM proxy like Light LLM for people who are starting to build on top of it. Because at the end of the day, you would start realizing that a lot of conversations that are happening within a multi-agent framework would kind of be lost for you, and you would end up probably observing at variety of different places. So having a, like Abhay said, having observability right built into the system right from the day one is how you would be able to manage your development workflow a lot better.
Absolutely.
So, building on top of that, let's just say, like, for novice or even for advanced developers, what are the common mistakes one can avoid early on? Like, not building observability can be one of them. Is one of them, also, of course.
Right.
Uh, and in the same breath, I'll also put Mehak's question that what is the biggest myth around agentic AI, according to you, in your experience?
Right. So, couple of myths that are there. One I already told about. A lot of people think that it's an AI agent. Oh, I just need to press a button and things are going to magically happen for me. We may get there in the future, but right now there is a lot more work that needs to be done to achieve there. So there is no silver bullet for an agentic AI thinking and understanding. But at the same time, yes, there are now agents which are trained to do very specific tasks and they are pretty good at it. So we are getting there, but not there fully yet. That's one myth. Um, in terms of pitfalls, AI is new, and in fact, we have also been caught up in our early days that over engineering does happen at lot of times, where you focus too much on your LLM rather than the workflow or the goal that the AI needs to achieve. So the planning task, the execution task, they need to be kept separate. There need to be enough communication between them so that they are done, and avoiding over engineering. Another is people think that AI is all about prompt engineering. Yes, prompts do play a very important and pivotal role in how your agent will behave, but understand that prompts tell you what to do now, sort of give you a personality and tell you that what is it that you have to do now. But more than that, you need to be contextually aware of what is happening overall. Your prompt does not address those. So both prompt engineering and contextual awareness is very important for your agent. So when you focus on building this, you build in such a manner that previous conversations, previous actions are always available to your agents so they don't miss out on what has already happened.
Right. So, quite like the popular term nowadays that Karpathy is again pushed into the ecosystem, that's context engineering, right?
Right,
So, context engineering is automatically like becoming the next big buzzword in the
right,
AI race.
right.
And as far as I understand, one of the key factors for managing a good context engineering is managing good agentic memory.
Hmm.
So, what are your thoughts around that? I mean, how could one person be building it at the beginning itself or thinking about it in the right way when they are building it
Right.
out?
So see, from the initial start days, RAG or retrieval augmented generation was a technique to maintain outside data, be relevant with the LLM without retraining the LLM on your specific context. I think specific domain specific LLMs are in a world of its own, and they need to be trained when you are tackling a certain vertical problem. When you are talking about context, and context is generally very local or very specific to your use case. So you need to implement strategies wherein you need to make sure that you don't occupy a lot of memory, A, and your context should be immediately available when your agent needs it. When proper context is not available, generally we've seen that AI becomes very brittle, right? It either breaks or goes into a loop like a chatbot, which simply doesn't understand what you need to say. So you have to be careful right from the start that how you're going to maintain the memory and how you're going to make your AI or chatbot or your agent, whatever you are building, to be contextually aware. Now, there are vector databases that are available. Some are open source, some are paid. I would recommend starting with some open source databases like ChromaDB, which are great at what they do, and then using a right embedding model. You can use your OpenAI embedding models, your Cohere embedding models, or other open source models. They all have their trade-offs. You just got to make sure what is best suiting, but selecting the right embedding model, making sure your data is being vectorized and stored in a database and available to your agent immediately. Now there are caching level vectorization that is also happening with Redis and some other tools that are there that make sure that the latency is reduced and you are able to get that data. So I would recommend thinking about maintaining this right from the start when you are building your agent or your use case, making sure that there is no redundancy and availability, low latency for your data, and not uh, going very heavy on the memory. People tend to upload. So it's not a problem that you upload gigabits of data, right? Sometimes it's required, even more. But you need to be aware that your search algorithm needs to have the results very quickly, even when you have petabytes of data. So making sure that even your search algorithm is optimized and able to get you the context aware data.
Cool. Great. So let's switch gears a little bit more. You have done, as far as I remember, so yeah, essentially you have built Hamara.ai,
Hamari.ai,
right?
yes,
Right.
that's a platform for building voice agents.
Exactly. So you built a platform for voice agents at scale.
Right.
So, what are the key infrastructure insights you have come up with that you can kind of share with your fellow developer community?
Sure. So there's been a lot of learning, to be very frank. It wasn't easy to get this running. It seems easy in the architecture diagram, but when you look at real world cases, it's quite complicated to have a very decent experience for your users. I always say to my team, right, it's like a stage performer. If it stops in between or there's an awkward pause, the magic is gone, right? So the top learning here is to ensure low latency. When you are talking to your customers, to actual humans, they do not appreciate pauses. The robotic nature of this AI comes out to them. When there are no pauses, it's very human like. Even the customer or the person you're interacting with likes to interact more with the system. So one of the key learnings for us was to ensure that it has a very low latency. Now there are three critical components when you talk about voice agents. One is your text to speech, which converts the written text to speech. Then you start off with the speech to text, where the user speaks and it's converted to text. And then there is an LLM in between, which actually understands the context and gives you the certain reply. Now, when you have three moving parts, and they may be from different providers based on the language, the regional dependency, and certain other considerations, you got to make sure those systems are fast up and running. So another key learning for us was parallelism and async nature. We need to make sure that these three systems work in parallel, in real time, and are asynchronous. Any one of them, if they take time, then the whole experience of the user tends to go away. So making sure that your agent is as real time as possible leads to better customer experiences, better outcomes. And then deployment, yes, deployment challenging. We One of the things that we pride about is there are no more missed calls, right? In a single cloud-based telephony, you could scale this to n number of agents. No matter how many people call them, there's always an agent to answer. Now that's a
Right.
big thing for call centers, right? Having calls, customer waiting, that's an unpleasant experience that most people in the customer service industry would agree that they want to avoid. So one of the key benefits for having a voice agent is to having no missed calls. Talk to them in the language they provide or they speak, right? We support over 27 major languages and many sub languages. So scaling for us was a challenge. We had to make sure that within milliseconds there was an agent always waiting to answer the next call, next incoming call. So making sure that they scale up horizontally and making sure that they were still context aware, right? So that was a challenge. We had to tackle various, what I would say, redundancies in the system to overcome this and build a system that could take up as many calls as they like.
Right. So let's kind of pull that out a little bit
So
because it's a lot of pieces, right? Like you said that there is a TTS and then speech to text,
STT,
and then you are bringing the LLM in between.
correct.
So why not go for directly uploading the audio clip to the LLM, or is it not possible? What are the interface challenges, so to speak?
Right, right. So I understand. So keeping things real time and having low latency is the key here for the customer experience. When you upload audio and not real time, there is always a delay. No matter how fast your system is, the client system may not be that fast, right?
Right.
So it has to be real time. Whatever I'm speaking right now has to be transcribed real time and sent to the LLM to keep low latency. That's one. Now there are open real-time models also available, which have STT, TTS, and LLM built inside them. So when you speak to them, and even OpenAI has a model now where it gives you the end output. Now, this was the high-level overview. There are multiple things, multiple different models we also need to run in between these pipelines to make sure that the experience is good. For example, there is a background noise removal model that we run. There's another one that understands when the user has paused. People have different um, velocity to speak, so as to say, right? So the AI needs to understand when the user has stopped speaking and it needs to reply. So there is a model for that. There's a model for being context aware. Not all LLMs are trained on your data. So real time is good for very low use cases where probably you just need to make an appointment, a reservation, or do a small task. As soon as complexity arises, you got to break it down into parts. And to be honest, like I mentioned in the beginning, building agentic AI is a sum of all parts, right? They need to be, it's a well-oiled machine that needs to run perfectly, because for an end user, they really don't understand and care what are the systems behind it. It is your duty as a developer, as a product owner, to make sure that the customer experience is good, and it's so good that they are not able to distinguish between an AI and a human.
Right. Great. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure, like, as soon as we start talking about voice AI agents, there's a ton of questions that you must be fielding on a day-to-day basis. So, in interest of time, let's move on to another important aspect. Like, let's answer this question. Like, how are agent-based systems, changing the roles and skills expected from developers and product engineers in your experience?
Great question, right? I get this question almost every day from people who are in this field and even not in this field, but have heard of Agentic AI. See, the first thing is, is it going to take my job? Well, if your job is to pause unpause Zoom meetings, then your job is in a real danger. But like I said, it's not really at a stage where it is going to completely eliminate a human. Maybe for very, very low end use cases, but the kind of work we do currently do, agentic AI is not there yet. And secondly, I tell people think of it more like an assistant than a replacement. It's the guy that's there to make your job easier. It's not there to replace you completely. So if I were a product owner, if I were a developer, and let's talk about developer, right? Because most of the audience is here, and I can even talk about non-tech cases. So when you are a developer, most of us are using co-pilots in one or the other way. There is a GitHub Copilot, then there are IDs now like Cursor, where we are getting help in coding. We are able to develop much faster. We ship greater products now in lesser time with fewer bugs. Now, this has made my job easier. It hasn't replaced me as a developer altogether. This is how I tell my team and others that think of them as a silent assistant that you've got now, wherein they are able to help you do your work, be more productive and efficient. Secondly, even for non-tech folks, um, think of it like an intern, right? You gotta tell it first what to do, and then it does those mundane, menial tasks for you, which were taking most of your time while you were doing your job. As a product owner, I feel I have more time now to do strategy work, to build more architecture and plans than simply coding things which were very repetitive in nature. So in a way, it has taken away or it has made me more productive in what I do as an everyday task that I'm doing. So this is what I tell everybody. Don't think AI is going to take away your job anytime soon now. But at the same time, the job will be, and job market has always been a little lenient towards people who are more efficient, right? So somebody who's using AI to do their everyday work, job market will lean towards them, right? Because for a business, speed, execution, and efficiencies matter a lot. So if you are using somebody using AI as an assistant, as an intern, you will definitely be there in the job market. People will definitely seek you out if you are able to complete your tasks in lesser time.
Right. So it kind of opens two major threads, in my opinion. One is, of course, that when we are talking about that, you are using AI and to deliver your tasks. But with the fresh graduates, when they see that everybody is using AI tool, they straight away jump to that. They're able to deliver a good, neat product. But then they don't know the internals about it. And as soon as you'd ask someone that, okay, go ahead, change this or that, uh, assuming with this precondition that AI is unable to solve it, they would either say that I don't know it or I need to use AI. I'll wait for AI to come back online. So what is your take on it? That's one aspect. And then
Hmm.
the other aspect which Abhishek has raised is that how would you design an agent to replace a junior dev? Or should you really be, in other words, should you really be thinking about replacing a junior developer?
Right. Okay, I'll take the first part. Got it. Got it. So let me answer the first part first. I was recently having a conversation with another CTO, in fact, a group of CTOs, and the topic was that why were frameworks needed in the first place? You had a lot of frameworks in the coding world, right? Especially if you talk about front end, there were n number of JavaScript based frameworks. Now the topic was, has AI made all those frameworks irrelevant? The example here was, if I ask AI to do a specific task for me, especially let's take an example in the front end, it doesn't matter what framework it is going to use because the end result is the same, right? It could code in plain JavaScript, plain vanilla JavaScript, it could use React, it could use Vue. The end result is the same. There are nuances here and there, but as a user, I am able to get the same output. So has it made all these years of framework redundant? I would say no, uh, not entirely. It is very important for us to understand that we as humans, we as owners of the role that we are playing, we need to have clear understanding of our basics, and AI has given us the time to learn about the basics very much. Now if people are skipping queues, they are skipping work and are asking AI to do everything, they might succeed initially, but when AI fails and gets stuck, and eventually it will, right? This, like I said, we are not at the super intelligence level yet. So that time you're going to face a lot of issues because you don't understand the basics. So if you were to write a semicolon here or change a function there or do something else, you would struggle. So my advice to everybody, especially the college graduates, even in my own company, the freshers who are joining, is to devote as much time learning the basics. Even if it's plain old JavaScript, learn those basics. If you don't understand the basics, you will never get AI right, or at least not 100% right. That's the first part. Now, as Abhishek has answered, in fact, asked how would you design an agent to replace a junior dev? I think I answered a little bit earlier. Don't think about replacing a junior dev. Think about having an assistant for your junior dev to be more productive. Your AI agent, your co-pilot, your whatever you want to call him, an AI intern, is going to make sure that your junior developer is now doing the work of four developers instead of one developer. Your where you used to hire four freshers, now you gotta hire one smart fresher who's able to control. And that's the discussion that we have that with our peers here, that more and more roles in the human and the coding world are going to shift at the managerial level, where the junior or the daily tasks or the mundane tasks are carried out by AI, and even the freshers are like sort of managers of these AI tools and getting the work done out of them, making sure that they deliver the desired output.
Right. I totally kind of agree with you over there. I mean, and in fact, even on DevBytes, we today published another piece of news where it is again kind of discussing, and a lot of developers are diving into this discussion like, is quick coding with LLMs actually really addressing development's main issues or not? Wherein people are arguing or developers are arguing about, or essentially concluding towards this, that uh, while the coding has become faster, the bottlenecks are, understanding, reviewing, testing, and then again coordinating with people. Like you have pushed a release, and somebody's aspects have started breaking in their
Hmm.
own production code or testing code, whatever. And then there is another back and forth, like it's happening at our dev bytes as well at
Yes,
times.
right, right. So you
So,
have an agent for testing, you have an agent who does the DevOps for you, there's an coding agent now. So all of these tasks that you were previously doing, you have an assistant, but you gotta know the basics to make sure that it runs as a well-oiled machine, right?
exactly,
That's
like you said, keep your basics clear. That's the way to
forward.
really.
You're
Uh,
like a handyman, right? Think about it. You have all the tools that you need, but you should know how to use those tools, right? All those hammers and chisels will not do the work on their own. They'll help
right,
you, but they'll not do the work on your own. So you think of yourself as a manager of AI tools, of these platforms that you are able to manage and get your work done in least possible amount of time.
Absolutely. So I'll take some other user questions that we have missed.
Sure.
So over here, Akram has asked, like, can agentic AI be a substitute to RPA?
I think agentic AI is the next logical step to RPA. RPA was a brave, bold attempt in its time to automate a lot of stuff. UiPath, Automation Anywhere, all of those tools were great in their own time. But now agentic AI has combined the power of RPA with the logic of AI. So now you get much, much more powerful tools. Look at how N8N is doing. Look at how Flowwise is doing. These guys can automate like all of the digital stuff now. Even the people I've seen examples where people are running entire marketing, sales, and other functions right out of these agentic AI automations that they are doing. So I think RPA's next level is agentic AI.
Yeah. So it's not a substitute.
It's
It is the natural evolution of
right.
RPA. Perfect. Then Aditya over here is like, if you could rebuild your current stack from scratch for agents, what would you definitely do differently?
We are now at a level where we are looking at the exact stack that we have that we need right now. But that's a great question because we did a lot of mistakes, right? We were learning, we use this, we use that, and we ended up, getting stuff at one place or the other. A similar story happens when you are using new frameworks or new tools. You realize their weaknesses as well as their strengths. So if I were to use this current stack, see, we initially we spent a lot of money on online LLMs when they weren't even required. We were doing simple queries. You don't need the OpenAI billing or other billings there. We realized that you could use offline LLMs. Olama is a great place to start when you are running queries that aren't really too much dependent on LLM logic. Use something that's offline. Don't run your bills high. We ended up paying a lot of bills initially just to when we were running workflows, we used to get LLM involved and it used to rake up our bills. So start with an offline LLM, just for simple tasks, and when you really need the LLM, plug in so that your costs are reduced. B, I like I mentioned, we are at the tool. We use LangChain and LangSmith quite extensively. So for observability, we definitely recommend starting first. It's something that came as an afterthought to us because we were so focused on prompts and getting that output right. We never determined that what is observing them is also important. Third, guardrails, right? Guardrails we implemented, I think, in the third or the fourth iteration when we were doing it. We Now I look back, we should have done that in the first go, because when we went for our first demo with our client, and client asked a question which was completely out of context, and I our LLM started giving answers from all over the world. So you got to understand, right? When you're building serious stuff, you gotta scaffold your agentic AI. It's built for a purpose. Make sure stays within those guardrails. So three key things that I would start from scratch when building again.
Right, right. And guardrails are so important because not only answering the questions is one aspect, uh, but prompt injection attacks.
Right. From both a security standpoint as
Uh,
well as compliance, you got to make sure that guardrails are there from the beginning.
and whenever building for B2B SaaS, I mean, they have to be there in every step of the way.
Absolutely.
So I guess that covers all the user questions. Um, Oh, we still like the developer mode kicks in, right? User questions,
Yeah.
audience questions, I would say. So yeah. So let's move to the next segment, which is essentially uh, what we do at these tech talks is we ask our guest to give that one piece of advice that you would like to give the developers, the audience, and let's kind of tune it to specifically to the agentic AI space. I mean, because that's the title of the topic today.
So again, my sort of key takeaway from working for the last almost 18 odd months and more from specifically on agentic AI, and I don't need to tell everybody here that the future uh, in both commercial as well as other aspects of the world will rely a lot on AI agents. AI agents make our work a lot simpler, bring efficiency, and remove the mundaneness and the boring part of what we do every day. So it is definitely part of the future, and you should definitely be trained in using one or the other agents. Don't give this a skip, right? That is one advice. Second, when you are from the tech background and you are starting to build AI agents, it's not magic. Don't expect a wand that is going to build an agent for you. It might happen in the future. I haven't seen it, but I wish to be in it. Um, but right now, there is a lot that needs to be done. It's thoughtful engineering. You got a plan and use the right tools with the right purpose and making sure that you build something of value. There are n number of marketplaces that have cropped up in the last couple of months, even where you have these AI agents for sale. The only reason you don't see them in the news or getting large funding is simply because they don't have or they lack the seriousness of implementing a solution end to end. It's very easy to build something very small or do particular task, but when you take it commercial, you gotta understand that there is security, there is compliance, there are guardrails, there is purpose, and then edge cases that you gotta think of. So, building a thoughtful architecture is definitely required if you are thinking about building AI agents.
That's great. That's great. So I totally concur over that with you, Abhay. So with that, I guess, and in interest of time again, we'll start closing this. And with that, I mean, thanks a lot, Abhay, for all these deep insights around agents, around voice agents. And I'm pretty sure, I mean, someone also mentioned, like, please don't leave the, like, go ahead on the topic when we're discussing more about voice agents. So we'll probably pick that up sometime in future.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I would love to do a part two when people are more advanced, something, some other topic we can pick up in agentic AI. It's a vast topic and it's like an umbrella, you can pick up different spokes and go very, very deep into it. But I would say keep at it. That's really important.
I'll also say the same for everybody who has tuned into this session today or is watching it at a later time. That keep hacking around agentic AI. It's becoming bigger and it is becoming better.
Yeah.
So with that, thanks for tuning into Tech Talks, and thanks again, Abhay, for taking out time for all our audience.
Pleasure is all mine.
So with that, to all our audience, if this conversation has brought some value to you, be sure to follow the show, share it with your team, leave us a review, and for more insights from the builders of future, stay with us at Dev Bytes. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Pleasure speaking to you.